Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Today's talk is about refuge, taking refuge. Today we'll explore the notion of refuge itself and a little of what we take refuge in as Buddhists. I think this talk will be followed by another one showing the main differences between what we call the Hinayana way of taking refuge and the Mahayana way of taking refuge, and perhaps another talk after that about the Vajrayana refuge, and indeed one more after that about the actual ceremony for those of you who want to prepare yourselves for it. Today we're looking at taking refuge, which is the way it is said that one becomes a Buddhist. The idea of refuge, this word that we translate as refuge, has several resonances. It means turning to something, for protection, help, guidance, and ongoing support. That means when we take refuge, we've already realized to some extent that on our own we can only go so far. We need help. And then of all the different sorts of help possible for us, following what people might generally call a spiritual path, then of all the different faiths and philosophies and ways and so on, refuge, taking refuge means we've decided that the Buddhist way is the one that we prefer. It doesn't mean that we reject the others, we don't reject them, we respect them. But it means we have chosen the Buddhist way. And we're turning to it for this support and protection. There will be an initial step whereby through a ceremony we formally take refuge, and we'll consider in these talks the importance of actually going through the ceremony, even if in your heart of hearts you've already decided you trust the Buddha's teachings. It's important to go through the ceremony. But once we've done that, taking refuge afterwards becomes something that's repeated every day, ideally many times a day in our Buddhist practice, because it is the very foundation of the path. If we don't speak in these abstract terms like path, these metaphors, but if we look at the reality of it, what are you going to be doing? You're going to be working more intensely than most other humans with your mind, with your emotions, with your feelings, with your memories, with your hopes, your fears, with your interpretation of reality. Many, many things which make you who you are. The trust in the refuges, that trust in your mind as you go through the process, will be the most important basis for sticking with the process and getting the most out of it. It will be a help in so many ways. And what many of our Kagyu teachers tell us, and it's so true, we ourselves see it as the years go by, is that when we first take refuge, we're very much in the dark. And as the years and the decades go by, we start to realize what an enormous thing it is. And some even say, if you could really take refuge properly, you'd be enlightened. Because taking refuge in the Buddha, his teachings, the Sangha and so on, means knowing what Buddha is. It means knowing what the Dharma is. We're taking refuge in those things. So the deepest refuge comes with a very, very awakened, powerful, liberated mind that understands the strength of what it's turning to, what it is learning to root itself in day after day. So refuge is the first and perhaps continually the most important part of our Buddhist practice. If we consider the idea of refuge, turning to something or somebody for help, for inspiration, for support, for protection, then we can see it's something we do all the time in daily life. One way or another we need help. We need help with our health. When we're not well, we need a doctor, we need medicines, we need hospitals. Sometimes we need financial help. When we're younger, sometimes it comes from our parents or afterwards from institutions, from friends, loans. Sometimes that really keeps us out of trouble and makes a breakthrough possible. Sometimes we need places. We need to go to the seaside, to mountains, when we're exhausted, for refreshment, for inspiration. And many people have a very special place for themselves. They go there and somehow it's like they're touching base. They're recharging their batteries, but more than that, something special happens. It's as though, and it's the way some people express it, it's as though one is speaking with the universe. So when we look at all of this range of things, of people and places, then we ask ourselves a question: what can they help with, and what can't they help with? When we become Buddhists, we're looking to work on our minds, to understand our karma, our reincarnation, and make our future lives better. We have an understanding that the Buddha went beyond life and death. He found what's called the deathless state, enlightenment. And in one way or another, at one speed or another, each of us has decided to go on that journey. So we ask ourselves the question, who can help us and who can't? Money can't really help you. Music, situations, nature can't really give you the method, the teachings, the insight into your own mind, your own feelings, your own thoughts, your own projections of reality. We need to turn to something that can help us and that we can trust, not just for a few simple truths, but that we can trust all the way right up to enlightenment itself. And of course our parents, although they may be wonderful people and kind and so on, if they're not enlightened, they can't show us the way to enlightenment. In some cultures there is an ancestor cult. One turns to the ancestors, not the parents, but the previous generations, with the idea that somehow their blessing is all important. In Buddhism, we turn to the very best. They're often called the three jewels. And this word ratna, which is translated into English as jewels, actually it's a difficult word. It has 6 meanings. And the word jewel picks up many of those meanings. For instance, it means something rare. Precious gems are rare. It means powerful. A precious gem is a very powerful thing. If you have a diamond this size, it's the equivalent of 40 years' work and more. Could keep you alive and supplied for your whole lifetime. So there's powerful. The quality of a gem, a jewel, is that it is pure, It is flawless. It is beautiful, and so on. So we talk about the 3 gems, but what we really mean are the 3 most precious things ever. So what do we turn to? We turn to the very best mind that ever graced this planet. It's not because he's the Buddha and we're Buddhists that we say he was the best. It's the other way round. We're looking for the best, and whoever was the best, which means the wisest, the kindest, the most compassionate, the most skillful, the most liberated, the most peaceful. Whoever fits that bill, we call that person Buddha. And if there was somebody who was more peaceful, more liberated, even wiser, then that would become the Buddha. So we turn to the finest human this world has ever known. Buddha became enlightened, so it's very normal that we turn to the Buddha as our example, and as also the one who can give us perfect advice about the way to go. Of course, as we know, we missed the Buddha, and the most important thing for us are the Buddha's teachings. And the Buddha himself, when he was passing from this world, left the teachings as his ambassador for us. So we turn to the teachings. What are those teachings? Those teachings, as far as we're concerned, and as far as we can see, are the finest wisdom of all the knowledge, of all the methods of practice using body, speech and mind. They are the very best. They are totally pure, flawless, and so thorough, so complex, covering so many things useful for different people and different people at different stages of their path. We turn to the very best teachings. And then those teachings have been kept alive by the Sangha. So today we turn to those human beings who are the living flame of those teachings, the ones who have the insight, the realization, the meditation experience, who've practiced those teachings and who have the results. The very best, that's what the Ratna means. And they are very rare. A Buddha coming to the world is very rare. To find absolutely pure philosophy and method is very rare. To find pure human beings totally dedicated to helping others in this quest for truth is very rare. So they are rare. They are the most precious thing you could ever find in your life, the most precious thing you could ever devote yourself to. They are powerful. The Buddha's presence in our life is very powerful. The Dharma methods and teachings have a powerful effect on us, a very amazing transformative effect. And it's the same with the Sangha. Of all of our friends and acquaintances, their influence is the most powerful on us. And then when we find the authentic Dharma teachings and Sangha, when we have the understanding of the Buddha, then it is something that is very pure. So that is what we turn to when we take refuge. And Buddha, Dharma and Sangha are the main refuges. In Tibetan Buddhism, in Vajrayana Buddhism, they have 3 special aspects, which are called the 3 roots, which are the gurus, the yidams and the protectors, and we'll consider those in another talk. The Buddha, Dharma, Sangha are the refuges for all Buddhists. I think what most of us who have taken refuge have found, when we look back over the years, over 20, 30, 40 years, is that the day we took refuge was probably the best day in our life. It is the time when something very meaningful started, something that will help us over many lifetimes. The Buddha, the Dharma and the Sangha are quite profound topics. And that is the reason that before starting on these videos about refuge, I made a short series of teachings about the Buddha, and another series about the Dharma, and another about the Sangha, so that you could have reference to them to have a better idea of what those three most precious things, the three jewels, are. When we do take the commitment, then it's important we take the ceremony, because the nature of a vow is that it needs to be properly received from someone who has the lineage. We need to receive the refuge vow with the right motivation. So when all of that comes together in a ceremony, it creates something, the power of a vow, power of a commitment, which will remain with us. It says whether you are asleep or awake, even if you faint, from that time onwards until you die, or until you break the commitment or give it back. In other words, when we take the refuge ceremony formally, it opens up something in our mind, somewhere deep in our consciousness, where we redefine ourselves as Buddhist. And it is that confidence that afterwards we renew every day, that vision of the path that we are following, where we are going for everyone's benefit. That has a profound effect on our psychology. What happens if you don't take the ceremony and the formal commitment is that your mind vacillates. You think of refuge sometimes. You still are not really committed, and you won't have this constant support power in your mind. You are still hedging your bets. You are still undecided, and you can't expect to have the same inner strength coming out of it. When we do take the commitment, we can either take it in the way of Mahayana or in the general way of Buddhism. And in the next talk, what we'll look at is how these are different. I think that's the main thing for this first talk. It is the general idea of refuge. It is starting out on the path. It is the psychological support we need to follow the Buddhist path. We need to turn what is worthy of our trust and something that will never disappoint or deceive us. Thank you very much for spending this moment with me, with the Buddha's teachings. I wish you well wherever you are.